Hey, good morning, all, and welcome again to our NOAA in the Caribbean meeting. And we are so excited about this day to talk about one of my favorite things, coral. Thank you, Yaritza, Julian, Catherine, all of the executive team members that have organized this day. And the rest of the week. It's been beautiful to work with you guys to build this session today. I don't think Henny is still on, but thank you also to him. Beautiful words. I love the reminder that desire without knowledge won't get you far. I love the idea of speaking to communities in their language. I think that there are many that can take from his words and continue to do some great things. And I'm very happy that we sit not too far from each other in the Silver Spring office. This morning session is one that we all thought would be a beautiful way for us to kick off this choral session, hearing from the future restoration practitioners, scientists in this field in the Caribbean. And so I have to give a huge shout out to Sami and Yanina from Sociedad Ambiente Marino, who was able to connect with students from their organization to share this podcast that I will start.
Bienvenidos a Voces del Arrecife, el podcast. Mi nombre es Ketsi Torres y este podcast fue creado con el propósito de mostrar la importancia de cuidar nuestros arrecifes de coral por el capítulo escolar Sociedad Ambiente Marino. En el día de hoy nos encontramos con Claudia Pagán y Ezequiel Claudio, quienes van a estar comentando un poquito más sobre lo que son los arrecifes, que aprendieron con el propósito de mostrar a toda la comunidad la importancia de el cuidado de nuestros arrecifes y de la conservación ambiental. Así que les pregunto, ¿qué es CESAM? ¿Qué es el capítulo escolar?
Pues es un club, ¿verdad? Un capítulo, un club, que se basa en la educación, en educar y proteger a los corales, llevar el mensaje de qué son los corales, cómo protegerlos.
También porque son importantes, cómo conservarlos, entre otras cosas.
¿Y qué es la Sociedad Ambiente Marino?
Sociedad Ambiente Marino, ¿verdad? Una organización que si no me equivoco, se enfoca, ¿verdad?, en lo que es el cuidado de los corales, los protegen, también informan sobre ellos. Han venido mucho para acá, para nuestro club, y han dado bastantes charlas para explicarnos sobre los corales y por qué son importantes.
Hacen actividades recreativas, ¿verdad? Para informar a las personas en todo Puerto Rico. Y como dijo Ezequiel, han venido muchas veces para acá para darnos charlas. Y pues de verdad eso es algo muy importante, ¿verdad? Educar a las personas.
Excelente. Y ya que hablamos de educación, ¿qué fue lo primero que ustedes aprendieron en esta charla sobre los corales que les llamó la atención o que no sabían?
Que eran animales. Que eran animales. Cuando tú te encuentras un coral, puede ser que muchas personas, ¿verdad? Ya que vivimos en una isla, nos encontramos con muchos corales por ahí y ni siquiera nos damos cuenta que son corales. Yo, antes de entrar al capítulo escolar, ¿verdad? Puede ser que me haya encontrado con muchos y no me daba cuenta que eran corales porque no me llegó esa información de cómo eran los corales y qué eran. Yo pensaba, si yo me encuentro un coral, ¿verdad? Lo normal es pensar que es una roca, porque es una planta, por su forma y su apariencia.
Yo cuando me los encontraba en la orilla del mar, yo pensaba que era una roca, ¿verdad? Por su forma, porque son blancos ¿verdad? Cuando se mueren. Y pues sí, fue algo bien impactante enterarme que son unos animales.
Sí.
Y eso está muy brutal.
¿Y han tenido alguna experiencia luego de haber aprendido eso, donde hayan tenido que expresar a otra persona que lo que está viendo no es un animal, no es una planta, debo decir, sino que es un animal. ¿Se han topado conversaciones, experiencias?
Pues yo en mi caso, una vez yo estaba en una actividad de mi iglesia y estábamos haciendo unos jueguitos y pues las personas tenían que decir, ¿verdad? Según lo que la persona dijo, pues decir algo. Y la categoría era un animal con C. Y todo el mundo diciendo, culebra, no sé, cosas así. Y yo le digo a una amiga que diga coral, porque es un animal. Pero la maestra o la persona pues encargada dijo, bueno, te la voy a dar, pero pues eso no es una planta. Y yo dije como, a rayo, no es una planta. Pero, ¿verdad? Esa fue como que una experiencia así, pues,
Distinta,
ajá.
distinta.
Sí.
¿Y tú, Ezequiel?
Pues yo, experiencias así, pues no, pero también he informado sobre los corales y en medio de eso, ¿verdad? En medio de las charlas, ¿verdad? Que hemos tenido, pues he podido ver que la mayoría de las personas cuando ve fotos de corales o uno le entiende esa información, la primera vez que los ve o que sabe que es, ¿verdad? Se sorprenden al saber que son animales, y que son animales bien pequeñitos, ¿verdad? Que juntos es lo que crea el coral, que se creen que son plantas o rocas la primera vez que los ves. Yo estuve en una mesa informativa y nosotros teníamos fotos de corales y la mayoría de las personas que pasaban por ahí pensaban que eran rocas o plantas.
Sí, excelente. Y dado sus experiencias y a lo que han comentado, ¿por qué entonces ustedes creen que es importante cuidar los arrecifes en términos de nuestra ubicación, o sea, de Puerto Rico?
Pues Puerto Rico es una isla, ¿verdad? Que nosotros, pues, la mayoría de nuestras actividades, pues, son en el mar. Y, pues, los corales, tras que aportan belleza a nuestro océano, ellos son hogar, perdón, de muchas especies que son importantes para ellos. También nos protegen de eventos atmosféricos. Cuando pasa un huracán, pues ellos son la barrera que nos protege.
Sí, nos protege a nuestra isla, la playa, la costa, de lo que son eventos atmosféricos.
Muy bien. Y entonces, ¿han tenido la oportunidad dentro de la organización estudiantil de educar a la demás comunidad escolar, algún otro espacio?
Pues sí, hemos tenido bastantes ferias, como la Feria de la Tecnología, ¿verdad? En el que nos dieron la oportunidad, por lo menos a mí, yo tuve la oportunidad de estar en una mesa y hablar sobre lo que eran los corales, de qué estaban hechos, ¿verdad? Que son animales, bastantes corales extintos y muchos corales que hay en Puerto Rico.
Y nosotros también estuvimos en una mesa informativa aquí para la comunidad escolar, pues como él había dicho, pues para informar a las personas sobre qué hace CESAM también, sobre los corales y todo eso. Y pues eso fueron experiencias muy
Sí,
buenas.
son experiencias bien buenas porque esta información le tiene que llegar a los estudiantes sobre la importancia de estas cosas, porque yo como estudiante yo no sabía qué era esto si yo no hubiera entrado por el club. Y es bueno como que compartir esa información que uno aprende.
Y ahora les pregunto, ¿nosotros en qué pueblo se ubica nuestra organización estudiantil? CESAM, CESAM.
CESAM en Caguas, aquí en
Sí,
Caguas.
en Caguas. Caguas es un municipio costero.
No.
¿Y por qué estamos haciendo esto entonces?
Pues queremos educar a las personas y para que cuando vayan a una costa, un municipio costero, pues entiendan y sepan lo que tengan que hacer o, ¿verdad? Pues tengan esa conciencia de los corales, pues, ¿sabes? Hay que tratarlos con mucho cuidado y todo, que eso, ¿verdad? Muy importante.
Y la verdad, estar en un municipio que no sea costero no nos impide hablar sobre los arrecifes de corales y sobre lo importantes que son, porque aunque no seamos un municipio costero, como ya dijimos, estamos en una isla. La mayoría de la gente, de las personas de Puerto Rico ha ido a la playa por lo menos una vez y ellos pueden ver y pueden, ¿verdad?, tener la misma experiencia de ver los corales como nosotros.
Excelente. Y es importante educar a la población, no importa ¿verdad?, en qué espacio resida, sino que cuando tengan la experiencia de ir a la costa, pues puedan conocer lo que hay, porque cuando no lo conocemos, pues tendemos a no cuidarlo, a no amarlo. Así que es bien importante. Y en términos de cuidado, quisiera también que me hablaran un poquito de cómo el cambio climático desde su perspectiva está afectando nuestros arrecifes de coral.
Pues últimamente hemos visto lo que es el calentamiento global, ¿verdad? Y que se están derritiendo los glaciales y todo eso. Yo no soy muy experto en eso, pero me imagino que todo eso puede afectar a lo que es el ecosistema marino y lo que es la vida marina. Debido a eso, varias especies y mueren o se tienen que mover de lugar, de hábitat, porque hay unas especies, ¿verdad?, que necesitan habitar en lo cálido y otras en lo frío. Y me imagino que eso también termina afectando a lo que es los corales y el ecosistema marino en sí.
Y también las altas temperaturas que les afecta a gran escala, ya que ellos son animales sumamente sensibles, las altas temperaturas también les afectan. Así que hay muchas acciones que nosotros en el diario vivir realizamos que quizás no lo vemos a corto plazo, pero a largo plazo sí les afectan. Entonces, ya que me han hablado que han aprendido, ¿verdad?, bastante dentro de CESAM, de lo que son los arrecifes, ¿ustedes entienden que la forma de ver los arrecifes ha cambiado desde su perspectiva según lo que ya conocían anteriormente?
Yo digo que ha cambiado bastante. Ha cambiado bastante porque, por ejemplo, antes yo hacía cosas que puede ser que hacía daño a los corales sin darme cuenta de que lo hacía. Y ahora soy más precavido con eso. Un ejemplo fue que usted nos enseñó que había que usar
Sunblock.
un sunblock adecuado, ¿verdad? Para lo que son, ¿verdad?, los corales y para el océano, porque hay sunblock en específico que ayudan, ¿verdad?, que no afectan a lo que es la vida marina, pero hay sunblock que sí, que no.
Ellos liberan químicos.
Sí, exacto.
Y le queda como una capa a los corales, que es pues, le impide el sol, que le llegue el sol y que hagan fotosíntesis. Y pues también hemos creado esa como conciencia de pues no utilizar esas cosas, no hacer cosas que los afecta a los corales.
Los afectan, los dañan.
Exacto.
Sí.
Y ya que hablan desde lo que han ido aprendiendo, me gustaría saber si esta información la han estado llevando a sus casas. ¿Cuál ha sido esa interacción entre ustedes y sus padres, hermanos, familiares, en términos de estos temas?
Pues mis papás también se sorprendieron, sí, porque nosotros, no voy tanto a la playa, ¿verdad? Pero las veces que voy no estamos pendientes de esas cosas. Lo que vamos a comer, a mojarnos, y nadie está pendiente al daño que podemos hacer mientras estamos ahí. Por eso he sido más cauteloso con mis papás y, ¿verdad?, les he llevado esta información para que también estén al pendiente de que podemos ayudar.
Sí, yo cuando le hablé a mis papás, pues ellos pensaron también lo mismo, que son plantas o rocas. Y pues darle esa información a ellos fue como que bastante reconfortante, porque pues al fin y al cabo estoy dando la información, enseñándole a las personas de algo que ya me gusta, ¿sabes? De algo que me está interesando mucho. Y pues me impresionó eso también, de como que darles información, que ellos se sorprendieran y que ellos como que estuvieran aprendiendo cada vez más sobre, ¿verdad?, lo que yo aprendo en las charlas y todo eso.
Me parece extraordinario. Y para ir cerrando un poquito, ¿verdad?, lo que es el tema de la importancia de los arrecifes, me gustaría que me dieran sus opiniones sobre por qué es importante educar y restaurar, ¿verdad? Porque sabemos que hay un problema, pero también sabemos que puede tener solución. Así que, ¿por qué es importante esa educación y esa restauración de los arrecifes?
Pues muchas veces no somos conscientes del daño que le estamos haciendo a los ecosistemas. Y es muy importante porque si no los podemos perder algo que les da vida a muchas especies y que nos protege a nosotros. Educar a las personas sobre los corales, pues al fin y al cabo es una acción que, ¿sabes?, nos protege a todos. Al fin y al cabo nos protege a nosotros, los proteja a los animales, a las especies, a todos, ¿sabes?
Y restaurarlos es bien importante porque, ¿verdad? Tanto que ellos nos aportan también es como que responsabilidad de nosotros, ¿verdad? A ese sentido de responsabilidad de cuidar lo que es nuestro, porque esos corales, ¿verdad? Y la isla en sí, el cuidado que le demos a ellas, ¿verdad? Depende de cómo nosotros nos comportemos, nuestras acciones, lo que nosotros hagamos, ¿verdad? Para que tengamos un Puerto Rico bien limpio, costas bien limpias, y restaurar los corales es un paso, ¿verdad?, que deberíamos hacer y que ya se está haciendo, ¿verdad? Es algo bien importante que debemos hacer para el cuidado de nosotros.
Y para cerrar, ¿qué sueñan en términos de cómo les gustaría ver los arrecifes de Puerto Rico en un futuro?
A mí me encantaría ver todos los lugares que ya tenían muchos corales, que ahora mismo están, pues que ahora mismo los eliminan por acciones nuestras. A mí me encantaría volverlos a ver con vida, volverlos a ver ahí todos con colores y ver a la gente que se preocupa por ellos. Que no es como que, bueno, pues yo hablo de eso, de protegerlos, pero no cumplo, ¿verdad? No lo hago. Pues me encantaría eso, me encantaría que todos supiéramos cómo cuidarlos y verlos ahí a todos los corales.
Sí, y que hay muchos arrecifes de corales, ¿verdad?, que están en peligro, corales que ¿verdad?, se están blanqueando, se están muriendo, y ver un montón de esos arrecifes de corales con tantos colores, con tantas especies, tan vivo que se ve, como dice Claudia, sería hermoso.
Gracias por compartir con nosotros y gracias a todos los que nos han visto en este episodio de Voces del Arrecife, el podcast.
Awesome. Just want to say thank you again to Sami, Yanina, and the students, most of all, for a beautiful podcast and presentation. Next up, we're going to hear from Arelys Lopez, also connected with Sam, and she's going to present some of the work that she has been doing with the organization.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Kemit, and thank you, Janina, for the opportunity to be here today. As mentioned, my name is Arelys López Pérez, and today I will be talking briefly about myself and representing my experience with Sociedad Ambiente Marino, also known as SAM. And through this presentation, I want to share how coral restoration field experiences and research in Puerto Rico has shaped the way I understand coral reef ecosystems and how it inspired my path in marine science and conservation. Next slide. Thank you. So growing up in the island of Puerto Rico in the Caribbean, the ocean has always been part of my life. I grew up near the beach, where many of my earliest experiences were with marine environment, and that's where it began. I remember being a child and snorkeling with my dad, and being able to see corals, seagrasses, fishes, and even sea turtles for the first time. So at that age, I did not fully understand the ecological importance of these ecosystems, but those experiences created a very strong curiosity about the ocean. So looking back now, I do realize those moments were the beginning of my connection to marine conservation itself. Next slide, please. So a little bit about myself. As I continued my education, that curiosity developed into a more passion for environmental sciences. So I graduated from the University of Puerto Rico with a bachelor's degree in environmental sciences, focusing on ecology, marine science, and conservation. I became a person very involved in student leadership and environmental outreach activities. And at the same time, I began participating in marine field research, thanks to SAM, particularly studying the interactions between the fireworm Arelys carunculata and the threatened coral Acropora cervicornis. So those early marine experiences introduced me not only to scientific research, but also the important about science communication, science outreach, and other aspects involved in conservation. Next slide, please. So the organization that I mentioned, so the Ambiente Marino, has had a very great impact in my development as a researcher. SAM is a nonprofit organization in Puerto Rico dedicated to coral reef restoration, marine conservation, even scientific research and environmental education as well. So for more than 25 years, SAM has worked through Puerto Rico, including different municipalities within Puerto Rico, such as in San Juan, Vega Baja, Culebra, Vieques, and it has focused a lot in restoring threatened coral species, but also monitoring reef ecosystems and involving communities and students in those conservation efforts as well. So it is not just only about restoration corals underwater, but it's also about building an environmental awareness and creating opportunities for future scientists as myself. Next slide, please. So through Sam's marine internship a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago, I gained my hands-on experience in coral restoration and marine field work. I was able to participate in coral monitoring, ecological surveys, restoration activities, and even educational outreach. So those experiences, they allow me to spend significant time underwater observing reef ecosystems directly. But also having a lot of experience in the field work taught me how to be a scientifically person that also would do stuff physically in marine conservation, and how at the same time it showed me how collaborative it can be. Coral restoration truly is that every restoration effort involves just not just researchers, but also a teamwork about divers, students, volunteers, and even local communities itself. Next slide, please. So one of the most impactful parts of my undergraduate journey was my research on the fireworm Arelys carunculata. So my undergraduate thesis focused on evaluating the population dynamics and predation activity of the fireworm on the Acropora cervicornis. So through field surveys, I studied spatial and temporal patterns in the fireworm abundance, body size, and predation activity across reefs that varied in structural complexity. So I initially viewed the fireworm simply as a coral predator, but however, over time, I did realize that studying this organism also provided important insights into reef ecology and restoration challenges. So the fireworm became more than just a species that I was studying. It became a way to understand how ecological interactions interact within a coral reef system itself. Next slide, please. So one of the most important lessons I would say that I learned through this research was that coral restoration is not only just about planting corals. Reef ecosystems are incredibly complex and interconnected. So coral survival can be influenced by predators, habitat structure, algal competition, disease, and other climate impacts as well. So studying this fireworm helped me understand that every organism within reef ecosystems play a role. And even organisms that are often viewed as negatively can also provide some ecological important information as well. So this changed a lot about how I see conservation itself, about how successful restoration requires understanding the entire ecosystem, not only just individual species. Next slide, please. So when we talk about healthy reef systems that are very important specifically to Puerto Rico as an island community through the Caribbean, as we all know, coral reef protect coastlines, storms and erosion, and they support a lot of marine biodiversity and fisheries, but they also provide tourism and local economies that help increase resilience against climate change impacts as well. So for Puerto Rico, reefs are not just only ecosystems, they're deeply connected to our culture, to our communities, and basically the way of our island life at the same time. Reefs are facing increasing threats, but because of this, coral restoration and conservation efforts have become more critical than ever. Next slide. So one of the most inspiring aspects of being involved throughout coral restoration that I've been able to see the direct impact that conservation efforts can have, but not just only on coral restoration, but also how, specifically through SAM, I witnessed how restoration projects can bring scientists, students, volunteers, and communities all together, because restoration is not only just ecological work, it is also a very educational and social work as well. So I have been able to see how it creates opportunities for people to connect within marine ecosystems and become involved in protecting them as well. So these experiences have also reinforced my belief that conservation is strongest when communities are included in the process too. Next slide. So being able to participate in coral reef research, it opened a lot of opportunities for myself in professional growth through conferences, scientific presentations, networking, and all those outreach activities. I began to understand how important is scientific communication itself. As I mentioned, research is not just only by collecting data, it is also about sharing that knowledge, collaborating with others, and making science accessible to communities. So this experience has helped me to grow not only just a researcher, but also as a communicator and environmental advocate. Next slide, please. So if I were to say about how coral reef restoration shaped my scientific journey, working with Sam along, it did strengthen a lot of my leadership, communication, and scientific skills. It introduced me to field ecology, to restoration science, to data analysis, and even interdisciplinary research itself. But more importantly, it did transform that curiosity I had when I was a kid, but it changed it more about being a more clear and professional path in marine science and conservation. So today, my goals continue to focus on marine ecology, reef conservation, and scientific research. And I'm continuously going to be looking forward for the next year as an NSF JRFP fellow to continue my scientific journey alongside marine conservation itself. Next slide, please. So if I were to conclude, I would say that coral reefs transformed my curiosity about the ocean into a career in marine science and conservation. So working in restoration taught me that protecting reefs means protecting entire ecosystems, coastal communities, and future generations. But coral reefs also taught me lessons far beyond science. I would say they taught me patience, they taught me leadership, collaboration, and how fragile marine ecosystems truly are. And sometimes understanding how to protect those coral reefs begins by understanding even those smallest interactions. So I would say that coral reef restoration showed me the impact that science, conservation, and community can have when they work all together. And those experiences, as I mentioned, did shape my identity as a young scientist in Puerto Rico to continue motivating me toward my goal of pursuing my PhD in marine conservation. So as a young scientist from Puerto Rico, I do hope to contribute to reef conservation efforts and inspiring others to become more involved in protecting our marine ecosystems itself. So, because yes, sometimes a coral reef can shape a person's entire future, and it did to mine. So I'm very grateful about all of these experiences that have made me the person that I am today, and I hope it does continue to other people in the next generation itself. So thank you all for your attention. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Arelys, for that amazing presentation. I think what I'll do for this session is pause for questions at the very end. So if you have questions, you can add them to the chat, think about them. We will have some time to ask questions to all of the presenters. Congrats on everything that you've accomplished so far, and all the best moving forward. I took a trip down memory lane and remembered back in my day, I don't feel like I'm that old, but I remember being like probably the one person from St. Croix that, of all of us that said we were going to study marine science in high school, that actually followed through with it. And it's amazing to see so many youth from Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands that are that didn't just say I had a dream of becoming a marine biologist some that want to become a marine biologist, but are actually, as Henny has said, not just desire, but getting the knowledge to actually do the work and make a difference in the future. So congrats again, Arelys. We're going to pivot to Youth Ocean Explorers. So thank you to our two presentations from Puerto Rico. Again, thank you to Sam and the team. You obviously are doing amazing work with the outreach and mentorship that you're doing with the young students in Puerto Rico. We're going to pivot to Youth Ocean Explorers and the U.S. Virgin Islands and hear from, first up, Elyse Ayala, Zuma Nisbett. And thank you to Howard Forbes at Youth Ocean Explorers for all of the work that you've done to get these students prepared for possible careers in the field. So Zuma, feel free to to turn your camera on and begin your presentation.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Zuma Nisbett, and today I will be presenting a presentation through the eyes of. Basically, it's an explanation of how I see it and kind of improvements and changes that, I feel, and I've spoken with like-minded people that do need to change. Next slide. So I'm going to be talking about the role that the corals play and how the health of them affects everyone in a small intro, as well as some of the changes we can make and restoration that is happening, and also that I've participated in myself, and how I work with corals. Next slide. Who am I? I am a 16-year-old senior honor student at the St. Croix Educational Complex. I have a strong passion with marine ecosystems, particularly coral reefs, and growing up here in St. Croix, I've seen firsthand how vital the ocean is to the environment and the community and the future, and how it plays such a powerful role in bringing people together. I think that any conservation work is group. It's a lot of teamwork involved, and I think it brings a lot of people together. I think that's quite beautiful. After high school, I plan to attend the University of the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas to study marine biology, and I aim to build a career focused on conservation and research, protecting and restoring marine ecosystems for future generations. Aside from that, I do many other sports and extracurriculars, trying to keep myself well-rounded. And yes, next slide. How I see it. Oceans can bring communities together, and like I said, from growing up on an island, I see how families go camping at beaches and build memories, from birthday parties to celebrations to weddings to funerals. And I think we all have an appreciation for the ocean in one way or another, but behind that, it's the importance to care for it. My hope for the future is that the world so many of us have so many have lived in and so many will be brought into is a better one from today. From the way we treat each other and from how we treat our oceans and our planet as a whole. Next slide. How the health of coral affects everyone. Healthy coral reefs provide protection, provide coastline protection from storms, support tourism, and are important for the marine animals that rely on them. When coral reefs become damaged, fish populations decline, coastal flooding increases, economies suffer, and the ocean ecosystems become unbalanced. Coral reef ecosystems are important, especially when you live on a Caribbean island. The coral reefs here are unbelievably important to the waters around us. Next, how we can fix it. We talk a lot about the problems with our reefs and the negative impact they have while damaged, but what can we do to fix that situation? Educating the public, coral nurseries, fragmentation, outplanting, artificial reefs, and fertilization. Personally, I am a diver, and recently I worked on fertilization. The topic is how corals fertilize and how we can play a role in that. Because a lot of our coral reefs are so damaged, we have to step in to do that next process, because although it happens naturally and when for example, gamete bundles go out into the ocean, they don't have the opportunity to reproduce sexually because how damaged and how much of a small amount there is. So that's where we step in as scientists and as people who care about the ocean and want to make a change. I can explain a little bit about that process because recently I worked with a local program that does try to do that, who works with WildWe, which is an organization the summer program I've been in multiple times. It's an amazing program and it creates a lot of opportunity, but they work hand in hand. So Thriving Islands is a organization that works with coral reefs here in the Virgin Islands, mostly around the Butler Bay area. And we'll go diving and we'll collect these gamete bundles, which only produce annually around, and it's based off of the lunar cycle. So what happens is there's gamete bundles that get released into the water with egg and sperm in them to connect with other corals to reproduce. And like I said, since they're damaged, we come in, step in, and we collect them with nets and coral condoms, which if you can see in that picture, my friend was holding a coral condom and a net to collect these, and we will fertilize them, which you can see they're about the size of a BB ball maybe, or like a Orby in the pictures of fertilization. And it is a long process, but it can save ecosystems when successful. Next slide. I talked about the role that they play, but even when coral reefs are damaged, they still play an important role. And now that they're damaged, they need our help to reverse the damage that we've caused. There are many individuals who work to change the dying reefs, and I think with enough education, funding, time, and patience, because coral grow really, really slowly, we can change it on a greater scale as a community of scientists, divers, or anyone with an interest. We can reverse something we have lost and the awareness of these problems. And I think it's important that we spark that interest with meetings like this and presentations like this and presentations from before. Seeing young people and seeing people who have worked in these fields for a long time, I think sparks an interest that one of us may not have. So I think that's quite important why we do certain things like this. And I just wanted to close out. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank everyone in this meeting. I'd like to thank everybody who has worked to promote an awareness for something that is so important, because we all need it. And without it, we'll not succeed as a community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Zuma. And we will round out this first session with a talk from Elyse Ayala, also connected with Youth Ocean Explorers. Welcome, Elyse.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name, as I said just before, is Elyse Ayala, and I'm an 18-year-old sophomore here, attending Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale and majoring in marine biology with a minor in scientific diving. But first, I am a proud resident of St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, and I graduated from Shalamali High School and have been a participant and mentor of the Ocean Explorers program hosted by the Virgin Islands Marine Advisory Service for the past several years. My presentation speaks about the importance of marine life in my community. Next slide. A way beyond ecology. While corals themselves are not plants, the reefs that they build support at least 25% of all of the marine species, providing food, nurseries, and shelter for a vast array of marine life. For humans, these beautiful reefs provide food security, survival, and cultural heritage, but more specifically for island communities like the Virgin Islands. Next. Pillar 1, Natural Flood Protection. Reef Response VI says that 97% of all wave energy is disrupted and absorbed by hard corals. According to monitoring data from NOAA and researchers at the University of the Virgin Islands, in 2019, there was about 20% of living hard coral cover in St. Thomas. During that year, a devastating outbreak of stony coral tissue loss disease struck St. Thomas, causing reefs to lose up to 34 to 50% of their living coral in a matter of months. Slide change. Slide change. I saw the devastating impacts of this disease being a student in the Youth Ocean Explorers summer camp, where we would always spend our afternoons snorkeling beneath the dock of UVI's Marine Science Center. Each week, we saw the ring of the dying tissue across each coral until there was nothing left at the end of the summer. And now, living hard coral in St. Thomas currently ranges between 5 to 15%. The territory has suffered up to a 70% decline in shallow coral cover over the past 2 decades. This decline severely degrades essential ecosystem services, triggering a cascading collapse in food security, coastal protection, tourism, and a local marine diversity. Slide change. A real-world example of this vulnerability was highlighted in a UVI's study in Limerick Bay of May of 2025. Graduate student Zoe Pierce found that with altered wave energies, critical infrastructure like the airport road and local wastewater treatment plant are at severe risk. The existing rock wall faces a potential failure from intense storm surges, demonstrating that without the natural wave-absorbing power of healthy reefs, our vital coastal infrastructure is left dangerously exposed. Next. The second part is about food security. Okay. As I previously stated, coral reef structures create shelter, nurseries, and feeding grounds for keystone species like snapper, grouper, lobster, and many other of the potfish that fill our traps. But when reefs degrade from bleaching or hurricanes or diseases, the fish populations collapse with it. And for families in places like Hull Bay, this is not an abstract environments issue, because fishing has been a primary source of food and income for generations. And when these core structures die, the species that sustain these households disappear, and food security becomes uncertain. This same crisis is unfolding in Frenchtown, which is one of the most historic fishing communities in the Virgin Islands. For generations, Frenchtown's identity has been tied to their fish market. Next. A local resident, Larry Gums, wrote that I had fishermen all around, above, below, and alongside. It was truly a cottage industry that just sustained the families. But today, warming waters and severe bleaching have flattened the reefs that these fish pots depend on. With nearshore habitats collapsing, fishermen must travel further offshore, burning more fuel and risking dangerous open water conditions just to bring home the same catch. So when we talk about coral reef loss, we're not just talking about ecology. Protecting and restoring these reefs means protecting our families, our traditions, and my community that have shaped St. Thomas for centuries. Pillar 3. The third pillar is about economic survival in the Virgin Islands. Much like Mr. Henio explained earlier, tourism is the driving force of our economy, bringing in more than double of the revenue of any other industry in the territory. And this biological crisis doesn't just threaten our food supply, it poses the existential threat to our entire community, which is currently experiencing an unprecedented boom. Next. According to the United States Virgin Islands Department of Tourism, the territory saw a record-breaking 303,000 plus arrivals in the first quarter of the year alone, and that is a 12% increase year over year. St. Thomas is leading this massive economic surge, accounting for more than 246,000 of those visitors just in quarter one, representing a 15% jump. In March alone, we saw a 24% increase with nearly 98,000 travelers traveling to our shores. Next. But we have to ask ourselves, what are these hundreds of thousands of tourists coming to the Virgin Islands to see? They are coming for our pristine waters, our white sand beaches, and our marine life. If we lose our coral reefs to disease and climate change, we lose the very engine that drives this historic economic growth. We cannot sustain record-breaking tourism if we neglect the natural resources that draw people here in the first place. And that brings us to the alarming reality on the next slide, please. That brings us to the alarming reality on the screen, the cost of our inaction. This projection models our economic vulnerability for the next few decades. If we fail to act, we enter a sharp continuous downward trajectory leaning toward 2050. A dead marine ecosystem will no longer attract those hundreds of thousands of visitors, but instead a massive spike in storm recovery costs. Without our reefs to act as a natural seawall, every major hurricane that will hit our shores with force drains our territory's finances just to rebuild something that we could have protected. So whether it's erosion, critical infrastructure like the airport road in Limerick Bay, or the cultural heritage slipping away from historic fisheries in Hull Bay and Frenchtown, the message is clear. Slide change. The data shows a crisis, but from my own eyes, I saw it firsthand that our reefs are vanishing, and we can no longer treat coral restoration just as an environmental hobby. It's an economic necessity, a structural defense, and a fight for the survival of my community. If we want to secure the future of St. Thomas, we must protect the reefs, and we must protect them for generations to come. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Elyse. Yet another beautiful presentation. I really appreciate how you, I'll compare your presentation to tapestry and how you wove so many pieces that are critical to this conversation together in a beautiful and succinct way. We have about 15 minutes, and so I will invite all three of our live presenters today to turn their cameras on. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. We have a few minutes for some conversation. Zuma, Elyse, Arelys. I did have a question. Pretty, well, it might be straightforward. You guys are all doing amazing work. What do you need from us? You have mentors that have been amazing in your lives, apparently. But what do you need from us, the wider community, and us from NOAA in the Caribbean?
I think I think there needs to be a level of understanding. I think the community as a whole, when there are people who are interested in this, yes, they are there to support and help us. But I think there is a level of people who say, oh, well, that has nothing to do with me. And I think that's a struggle that there is all over, but especially here in the Virgin Islands, because I think a lot of the time there is a level of ignorance, which is unfortunate, because I think a lot of us can agree issues like this affect us all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
In my opinion, I think we need more, like in Arelys. How do you say your name? I don't want to butcher it. Arelys López.
Arelys.
Arelys López. In her presentation, she was showing about the different communities and how they came together to help restore the coral reef in Puerto Rico. And I feel like if we have community outreach like that, it will definitely reach people here. And I see that in a lot of different things that the community does, like beach cleanups and things like that. And there's a lot of turnout. So if we can have turnout for those events, we can also have turnout for restoring the reefs.
Thank you. There's another question in the chat that asks specifically whether sargassum is causing an impact to tourism.
Sargassum is definitely causing major impacts to tourism. Not only does it create a smell, it also releases a lot of different toxins to the air and to the polluting the ocean as well. And it's only going to increase with the warming of our oceans and things like that. And it just, people don't really know like the different things that we can do, like they just want to get rid of it, but there's also uses for sarcasm as well. And I see that when I was interning at the quarry lab last summer, they were teaching us about the sargassum and how not only does it have homes for like baby creatures and things like that, but you can also use it as an energy source. And like kind of I can't remember the process exactly, but you can use it to create energy for other things like electricity and things like that.
Thank you. Catherine?
Hey, Kemit, I have a question. I thought I would just come off mute if that's okay. Thank you all so much. That was such an incredible panel, and your presentations were fantastic. We're literally talking in our group chat about how inspiring it was, and I think we all really needed this today. So Arelys talked a little bit about, some of her favorite memories growing up in Puerto Rico and being connected to the marine environment. And I just wanted to expand on that to you all. What are some of your favorite memories connected to the ocean or coral reefs, as you all are, growing up in your communities? Thanks.
So for me, sorry, living in the Virgin Islands, like especially it's just the ocean is right there, and things that people come from millions of miles away come to our oceans and our beaches just to relax for a few days, and I have that for a lifetime. And I've always been interested in marine life, but being in the Ocean Explorers Camp from the junior ocean explorers, and learning how to swim and learning about the different things, and then youth ocean explorers, and then becoming a mentor and getting my scuba certifications with them, it really has shaped my look on conservation and how much of an impact that corals, reefs, mangroves, anything that helps the water can help human life, and why we need to really hone in on why it is important to restore these things that we have broken as humanity.
To add to her, because I also live in the Virgin Islands, I live on St. Croix. I think that for a long time, I wanted to leave St. Croix. I did not want to be here. I felt like growing up, I felt like I was stuck here almost, because sometimes things are, I think, a lot harder than they would be somewhere else. But I think as I grew up and I got to see mentors and people I know personally do all these amazing things, I wanted to do something amazing, and I wanted to be a part of something a lot bigger than me. And I think I found more of a passion to be here and do work like this and get to have experiences like this, because how many people can tell you they've done it? How many people can tell you they've done the work? Yes, a lot, but also at the same time, not as many people that should be able to tell you they've done it, because it is something important. So to be a part of something like this that's a lot bigger than me is just one of my favorite things, and I think it will continue to be. It's not anything really specific. if that's not the answer you're perhaps looking for, but it's something so much bigger than me, and I think I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I would like to say I agree with Suma. At least from my part, as I mentioned, I do have been able to share this from early on too, living here in Puerto Rico. But I feel like my most deepest memories is always being able to share not only with important people as my dad, but my friends, my family, and people I also meet along the way. Because being able to understand how ecology works, but being able to appreciate it also helps a lot to move forward through this conservation efforts as well, because it can be easier to tell a person how important this is because of these reasons, but it's not until they actually connect a deep feeling with it that they're able to understand the importance and being able to want to continue protecting it. So as humans, we do value those connections, so I feel it's a very important way to be able to also throughout scientific research projects and restoration efforts to always continue expanding those experiences within the people itself, within the community itself. I think that is very important and very valuable.
Thank you, off of mute. Zuma, we have a quick question for you. What species have you collected gametes from?
D labs. So brain coral is what we were working with at Butler Bay. And the reason why we do it is because, yes, you can do fragmentation, but with fertilization, you create a lot of biodiversity getting two different parents, or you can do multiple. So we did D lab corals, yeah.
And have you done that for multiple years, or was this the first year?
This was actually my first year doing it. I wanted to do it the year before, but because I had heard about it, but it was already in process, and it's only once a year, and it's it's the corals calendar, not ours. So this was my first year, and it was quite exciting. I had already known about it and I'd learned about it, but I didn't have that opportunity to be actually in the water to see that process. Which I'll tell you, if anybody ever does it, it is so cool because I knew about it, but I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, and being there physically was amazing. It was really tiring, but it was like exhilarating to have to swim back in with uh collection vials in your hand saying I'm going to make a change. So yeah, it was my first year.
Nice. Thanks, Zuma. I think we might have time for more questions.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
So hi, yeah, thank you for the very nice presentation. So my name is Avishan. I work at, and my parents are from Trinidad. So it really warmed my heart to see all this amazing stuff you're doing. So one thing I noticed working in climate-related fields, there's definitely not enough of us from the Caribbean or with Caribbean roots working in our fields. You go to conferences, you kind of feel alienated and all. So my question to you, people who have grown up in the islands, what can we do to help motivate more youth like yourself to pursue climate fields? And then what else do we have to do to support the youth that are motivated to do these things in order for them to be successful and continue and to become the next climate leaders of future generations?
At least I could maybe talk of my experience. At least in Puerto Rico, I would say to be able, there's a lot of people, new generation, that has been more conscious about environmental factors over the years. But I do fear that there's still the need of involving more projects, or as my experience that I had the marine internship, in which they can directly be involved through that process. Because I feel there aren't enough immersive projects or maybe summer camps or workshops that people could actually volunteer or participate. And that's where, following the question that was before, you do need a lot of shared memories and connections to be able to understand and want to grow from those experiences forward. So at least in Puerto Rico, I feel like there's still a need of involving more projects that students, kids from young ages, and even like adults can be involved, immersed in those projects itself. So for them to be able to continue wanting to reach out in their future works, because at least in my experience, I had an immersive program in my childhood, and that's what I fell in love with. I was able to see for the first time a river, for the first time a mangrove, and I was so amazed with so many information that I wanted to understand more and wanted to experience more. So I feel like that's how you get kids from young ages to start wanting and creating from that curiosity, from that love, from that connection, from that shared memories, for them to be able to then later on tie in life with the importance and the more scientific or ecological importance as well. But that's how I feel like the easier way you get them in, at least sparking up that curiosity through those programs.
If I could add to what Ms. Lopez said, I think she was talking about having those opportunities and whatnot, immersive opportunities, so it could hopefully, spark an ecological and scientific interest. What I also think is there needs to be, funding is obviously an issue that we all know we have to talk about, but I think definitely here in the Virgin Islands, there's a fear of the ocean. There's many people who do not know how to swim and have not learned. That's why programs like why we are like the junior portion of it, teaching individuals how to swim, teaching them to have that appreciation for the ocean. Because when you want to create an interest and create more opportunities to help the ocean, you need to have people not be afraid of it. And I think a lot of the time there's a lot of deep-seated fear in it, and it goes back generationally, it goes back with history and whatnot. But I think that's an important place to start with. If you don't know how to swim, if you are afraid of the ocean, you don't enjoy the ocean, then how can you help it? How do you want to help it? Another thing is, I feel like to get more people involved, you have to understand that the people that are like in charge cannot have that constant struggle of communication and funding, because it makes it all the more complicated to get those summer programs, to get those immersive activities to younger people, to adults, to anybody who has that interest, if they can't start something because of those obstacles. And you want to face those obstacles and get through them, but it's easier said than done.
Thank you, Zuma. We are at time. At least I will give you the last say in this session if you have anything to add to that question.
Yes, I do have something to add, building on what both of them said, and being in YOE and JOE for so many years. I don't remember a time when I wasn't involved in the program like this. And I can tell you, like, with certainty that if I had not been a part of these programs, I would not be a marine biologist. I would not be where I am today. And that's because, like, as she said, I learned how to swim in JOE. I learned about all the different parts of marine biology, the testing the waters to see if the pH is right, or learning about the different types of mollusks and echinoderms, or learning about the corals, and that corals are not a plant. A lot of people don't even know that corals are not a plant. They are animals, but they have plants in them. And I think that because of funding and a lot of these things, and like she said, communication and funding and all those things, that we are not able to continue continue the education for generations to come. Because even this summer, we are the Virgin Islands Marine Advisory Service, they're not able to conduct YOE. They're only having JOE because they don't have enough funding. So I think back to the first question that you asked, Kermit, one of the main things that we need is funding for these camps and these educational things that these young adults, young children need to learn how to swim. And not just for YU and JOE, because there have been other things that have dissipated in the past years because there's nobody there to like give them like the chance to build something in the community, to help people learn how to swim, to help people understand why coral restoration, mangrove restoration, everything like this is so important. Yeah.
Thank you all. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to prepare for these presentations today, and the energy, the eloquence, and everything else, all the adjectives that you brought to our Know in the Caribbean meeting. We were very intentional about starting the rest of our day with you guys, and I am excited to continue with the rest of the day. I'm energized. I feel like I wasted coffee this morning because I did not need it. And we are excited to continue to think about ways to keep you guys all involved in knowing in the Caribbean as we move forward. So thank you again. And I'll kick it back to Jillian. Oh, sorry, Yaritza for our next presentation.